Welcome to the Blue Oasis podcast. This is the podcast for finding peace and prosperity, learning the history of hobbies, as well as developing a little side hustle. If you want to find peace and prosperity in your life, this is your show. Get ready. You're listening to the Blue Oasis podcast. I am your host, Adam Rothstein. All right, let's get to the show. And welcome back to the Blue Oasis podcast. With me today is Russell Van Brocklen. How you doing, Russell?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my journey with dyslexia is kind of an interesting one, but the most interesting point started when I was finishing up college in the late 90s, and I wanted to figure out how laws were made, not some class I wanted to know. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship program. Problem with that is when I showed up, I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level, which means I couldn't do the internship the way it was designed. So this literally went right up to the speaker's office, and their response was, we don't care what it takes. We're going to accommodate the living heck out of this kid, and we're going to make this work, regardless of cost. So they got a committee together, and they decided to literally pull me out of the legislative office building, and they brought me over to the Capitol, into the Majority Leaders Program and Council's office that ran the assembly day to day and treated me like a graduate student. So it was a phenomenal internship. They had 3 administrative assistants that could help with my cruddy writing because I had to return in reports each week. Then for the academic portion, I did an hours-long Q&A report and Q&A session instead of the big paper. Very standard accommodation for me back then. They wrapped all this up and put it into a suggested grade of 15 credits of A-. So now that goes back to the State University of New York Center of Buffalo's political science department, and they look at all these massive accommodations and they don't like it. So they said, we're lowering your grade. Guess what they lowered it to from 15 credits of A-?
I'm going to guess a D.
Nope, I wasn't that lucky. 15 credits of F.
F?
F, they flunked me.
Oh my goodness.
So now you know what it's like when you run into this. People like us say, well, I'm going to solve dyslexia. Well, I actually did. I went to my professors and I said, where can I go to force myself to learn to read and write in graduate school? They said, if you like politics, it's easy. Law school. So I went and audited 2 classes in law school, properties and contracts, with the inability to read or write. Well, you read and write more than anybody. So I kind of forced some improvements. Then my second day of contracts, I go in. And in law school, they use something called the Socratic method. If you don't know what the answer is, which nobody does the first week, they will ask you questions you can't answer to embarrass you publicly until you eventually adapt. That didn't happen to me. I didn't respond as a student. I responded as the professor's equal. Please understand, he was a law professor longer than I was alive. So he's going after me, I go after him, which kind of shakes him up. And then he goes after me again. I go right for the jugular. I'm just trying to put him down. I can't beat him. He can't beat me. It's going on 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He throws up his arms and says, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on to the next case in the interest of time. I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. Then I go back to the New York State Senate. And my senator is the majority leader. And at that time, there was 3 men in the room, the governor, the majority leader, and the assembly speaker, and they made all the decisions. Why is that important? Because I said, I want you to fund my dyslexia research program, which they don't do. So they sent me over to the New York State Department of Education, who was not happy of having the majority leader send somebody over because they have to take it seriously. So I said, where is this out of? I said, Buffalo. And they said, okay, we want a State University of New York distinguished professor in psychology to evaluate it. If they give a positive sign, we can move forward. If not, you're done. I said, okay, that can't be too bad. So I go out there and I found out that there are 2 distinguished professors in psychology in Western New York. One just happened to be the one that gave me the evaluation that started this mess. Her name was Dr. Irene Halichka, and she went to her old department of psychology at Buff State, and she said, "Give me the most crazy exam I can give this kid to really figure this out." All 269 questions plus supplemental ideas she had. It was 20 hours of testing over 3 days of the smartest woman I ever met, beating me up mentally to make sure this was real. At the end, she said, as I found out previously, he's reading and writing like a 6 year old. He turns his brain on. He's writing at the 70th percentile of entering grad students. He turns it off. It goes back down to first grade. He's literally moving from the part of his brain that doesn't work to the part that does. Here's a 5-page report explaining what's going on. So I take that back to the New York State Education Department. They're looking at this going, what the hell? This was not what they were expecting. They have to take it seriously because this is their senior evaluator. So then they said you have to connect this to current research. The only person that made sense of was Dr. James Collins, so I went and saw him. He wrote a book called Strategies for Struggling Writers, $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Education Department, and he found that we have default writing strategies of copying, visualization, and narrative. And I had to extend his work from mild dyslexia to severe dyslexia, which took less than 2 weeks. You seeing how I'm doing really well in grad school here?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think, yeah, so it
Well,
just,
let me just finish this point up, but then I just wanted to let you know because we'll be coming back to that. So then I go and got 15,000 from the university. We tested out on a couple of students, and then at the Averill Park Central School District, we were funded by the state. It's right outside of Albany, New York, our state capital. We started off with make just so you understand who I'm dealing with. Highly motivated, highly intelligent, dyslexic juniors and seniors. They were reading and writing at the middle school level, one class period a day for the school year. They increased to the average range of entering graduate students. They all went out of college. They all graduated GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. We were under $900 a kid. We were compared to Landmark College at the time. This was in the OOs. We were literally 3 times more effective for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
that is wow, that is one long story. Um, okay, so I guess my first question is that how did you know what caused your brain to just flip a switch and turn on and then just re be like really competing with your fellow grad students at the time?
Oh, I wasn't competing with them. I was completely way past them ever since the first time. They couldn't compete with me, not even close. What happened? Let's look at the science. This is the top book in the field, Overcoming Dyslexia by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale. That's dyslexia. See how the back part of the gen ed brain has this massive neuroactivity?
Yeah, on the left, yeah.
Yep. Now do you see how the dyslexic brain has almost nothing?
Yeah,
Now do you see how the front part of the dyslexic brain is about 2.5 times overactive?
yeah,
Okay. I went from doing things in the back part of my brain where nothing's going on to the front part where I have 2.5 times the neuroactivity.
yeah.
Now, according to Yale, that does two things. It's word analysis followed by articulation, which is exactly what law school is all about. All right. I just happen to have 2.5 times the neuroactivity, and it all just organized for the first time in my life during that conversation.
That is amazing. For me, it's more, I'm autistic and I think it's more that everything entirely is just firing in my mind. Like I can't turn it off. I do have trouble sleeping at night and I'm overactive mentally and I do want to create stuff like this podcast and it's
Mhm.
like I just need like an artistic outlet. It's just not easy to turn this off. And I don't think I've ever been in one ch- one lane at all. I don't even think I've, I've mastered maybe how to make an audiobook, but instead I just want to like just try everything, like all the flavors at an ice cream shop.
Let me ask you a question. Let's see if this makes any sense. First of all, I know there's going to be a lot. It doesn't matter which one. I just want you to pick one. Okay. What is your speciality? What is your area of extreme interest and ability?
Okay. I would still say audiobooks because I'm just interested in sound and just creating effects and all that. And I've already produced five and six or seven if you count clients uh, in that, which I've helped edit that for the clients.
Okay. Now I want you to think about when you're thinking about audiobooks. Do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed? Key question, but with little to no organization. Does that sound familiar?
Um, there is an organization process right now, and for me, I'm working on this audiobook
Hmm.
uh, in regards to hockey arenas and every NHL facility ever, and I'm going off city alphabetically. So there is an organization process in place.
Right, but I just want to, in general, when you're thinking about it, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? Is that you or
When,
not really?
okay, when they first pop up, yes.
Okay. All right. So when you're thinking about communicating in writing, okay, I want you to think about this: fingers, keyboard, fingers, keyboard. The idea's in your head. Then you take your fingers, put it on the keyboard. Does the idea fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain? Does that sound familiar or not really?
Not not exactly because the idea is there, but I might wind up wording it differently than what I had initially thought in my
Hmm.
head. So it's
Okay.
not so it's definitely not dyslexia. It's more of too much is firing in the mind at the same time, and I may need to go back and correct it.
So now you're seeing the difference between autism and dyslexia. If you were dyslexic, you would have said yes to both of those. If you were ADD or ADHD or mildly dyslexic, you'd be like the first one. Yeah, that's me all the time. Okay. So you see kind of what the difference is.
Indeed.
Okay. Now, what I want to show you is how to actually, for your audience, how to actually fix this. So for a dyslexic kid. So I want you to imagine the biggest problem I get. It's the kids in elementary or middle school, and they're essentially writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words, and nobody has any idea how to fix it. Okay. Have you ever known a dyslexic kid in elementary or middle school at any point in your life that was writing essentially randomly placed misspelled words?
There was one in elementary school, and I never saw him again. Uh, and and I remember like in a spelling test, like I got like 100%, and then the kid next to me was like not quite there, and he struggled to get 50% on the test, but it was all yeah, I never saw him again. So
Okay.
yes, to your
Did you
question.
did you know him reasonably well?
Maybe for the time, but I haven't
Okay.
spoken to him in I don't know,
A long
15
time.
years.
Okay. So I want you to make up a name for this kid to protect his identity. What's his made up name?
Okay, we'll go with Samus, like Samus Aran from the Metroid
How
series.
about something easier so I can pronounce it?
Okay, how about we then let's just go Sam. How about that?
Sam. Okay. Now, what was, as best you could recall, what was Sam's speciality? What was his area of extreme interest and ability?
I'm trying to remember. Let's see. I guess maybe it was just cartoons. Let's okay.
Cartoons. Okay. So, what I'm about to show you in the next 10 minutes is how to actually fix this instead of a couple of months like my competitors. And I'm going to ask you two questions. These are not trick questions. I use these with 7-year-olds. If you answer what I ask exactly, this will work. If not, you're going to get incredibly confused and then have an epiphany in what dyslexia really is. Okay?
Okay.
Just to forewarn you. So, What you're going to do is you're going to pull out a laptop computer, a real one with a real keyboard, not an iPad, not an iPhone, and certainly not handwriting. You are going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And then Sam's going to copy that until it's correct. Then you're going to swap out hero for Sam. So we got Sam plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that Sam really, really likes, and then 10 things he really, really dislikes. The first thing on his list of what he really, really likes is cartoons. So we're going to go down. We got Sam plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about for cartoons. So we got Sam plus sign cartoons. See how we got there?
Kind. Uh, not exactly. Okay, you said hero plus
So we start
sign.
off hero plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we swap out hero for Sam. That gives us Sam plus sign. What are we talking about? Now we have to go to a list of what Sam really, really likes. First thing on there is cartoon. We got
Yes.
Sam plus sign. What are we talking about? We swap out what are we talking about for cartoon, and we got Sam plus sign cartoon.
Or cartoons. Yes.
Yeah, cartoons. Yeah. So do you see how we got there?
Um, yeah, I actually not quite. I thought well, we're just replacing words at a time.
Right, because what we're doing is Sam's front part of his brain is massively overactive. And according to Yale, how we fix that is it's word analysis followed by articulation. So if you ask a dyslexic or ADD or ADHD kid in their speciality, in their area of extreme interest and ability, do they have ideas flying around their head at light speed but with little to no organization? The answer is yes. So we force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So what we do is I give you that formula. Hero plus sign, what are we talking about? And then they type that out, and then we replace hero for Sam. Okay, so we're swapping it out. So he knows we're forcing a structure here. So we got Sam plus sign, what are we talking about? See how we got there?
Yeah.
Then we're going to swap out what are we talking about for the first thing on his list that he really likes, which is cartoons. So now we got Sam plus sign cartoons.
Yeah.
Okay, see how we got there?
Hmm.
Okay, now here's the two questions. If you answer these exactly, this will work. If not, you're going to get incredibly confused and then have an epiphany into what dyslexia really is. Do you think I can fool you?
Yes, I actually do think you can fool me.
Okay, we'll just try to answer these exactly. We got Sam plus sign cartoons. Here's my question. We got to replace the plus sign with a word. Does Sam like or dislike cartoons?
Likes. Likes.
Yes, but that's not what I asked.
Okay, yes, Sam likes cartoons.
Yes, but that's not what I asked.
Uh, I knew you were going to fool me.
Let's try it again. You have to answer what I'm asking exactly. Okay.
Yes.
We got Sam plus sign cartoons. You
Yes.
got to replace the plus sign with the plus sign with a word. Here's my question: does Sam like or dislike cartoons?
Sam likes cartoons.
That's not what I asked. Do I have you nice and confused right now?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, yes, you have me confused.
Okay, let me show you what's going on. All right. So basically, you're supposed to process this in the back part of the brain.
Yes.
Okay. You did what almost every educated person I ever talked to did. I asked the Sam like or dislike. You automatically added the S to make it a proper sentence. Okay.
Yeah.
Sam has nothing going on in the back part of the brain. He doesn't know how to add the S. He would have answered exactly what I asked. Sam like cartoons.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to add the S. So, do you remember back when you were a little kid and your teacher taught you this rule? If they
Hmm.
showed you 4 or 5 times, they start getting annoyed. Like, how come you can't get it?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. You could tell Sam 1,000 times and he wouldn't get it. There's nothing going on in the back part of the brain. He can't learn how to add the S. So, what we have to do is move it to the front part of the brain. And to do that, we need to employ word analysis. Why? Because Yale told us this is how it works. So what I do is I would ask Sam to read what he wrote out loud. Sam like cartoons. And I would ask Sam, does that sound generally correct? And Sam's going to say no. I'm going to say, Sam, fix it. Sam likes cartoons. See how simple that is?
Yeah.
Then we do that for the next 9 likes and 10 dislikes. A lot of repetition. Each time it has to be correct. Now, do you see how that's a very simple form of word analysis?
Yeah, I do. Because
Then,
the repetition, eventually you will remember that.
Mhm. And then what we do is we go because reason one. Can you see how the reasons are a simple form of articulation?
I think I can because we use the likes. Sam likes cartoons is plural. And liked in the past sense. And I don't know if it's just that I've been like incorporated with this idea of just being um of just having so much grammar just jammed into
Yes,
me
you
from
are
a
you are literally trained to do this properly. And and that sense of confusion, that's what a dyslexic lives like all day through school. Okay, that's just a normal state for us all the freaking time. All right. But my question is, do you see when we go because give me a simple reason why Sam likes cartoons? Just one simple reason.
he likes animation.
Sam likes cartoons because he likes animation. Do you see how the reason is a simple form of articulation?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've moved word. We did word analysis and articulation, and we moved it to the front part of the brain. Now, the problem that we're having here is number one, the grammar's still a mess. So what we do is we tell Sam to read it out loud, and does it sound generally correct, and keep doing it until it's all correct as best he can make it. Now
Mhm.
we remove those horrendous grammar mistakes that normal teachers have the hardest time with, and we're left with some little ones and maybe some medium ones. They know how to deal with that. Okay. We're just trying to get them to where the teacher, gen teacher can work with them. But we got a whole big problem with spelling. Would it surprise you if I told you this is actually pretty easy to fix?
Not at all. It would not surprise me.
Okay. Well, what we would do is we tell Sam to read it, to go ahead and to drop a period and to rewrite the sentence. But every time he makes a mistake, he has to retype the entire sentence. Any spelling mistake. And he's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake. And he will keep making it for 3 to 13 times until he eventually gets it correct. Each time he's going to think harder and harder. And that's where the magic happens in the front part of the brain. So eventually he gets that correct. Then we do the same thing for the other 9 likes and 10 dislikes. Then we keep the same reason one for each of the 20, and we add a second reason. Reason one, same one reason, and then a second reason, we connect it by the glue word and until each one of those are correct for 10 likes and 10 dislikes. And then we keep those 2 reasons and we add a third reason. 10 likes, 10 dislikes until everything's correct. A 9-year old, this could take 5 months because parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions a couple of times a week. An older kid could go through it in a matter of weeks. Regardless, the student can now write decent grammar, correct spelling, 3 reason sentences, but their writing also improves. I'm sorry, their reading also improves because get this, if you can write it, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it. Does that make sense?
Indeed. Oh, okay. I did want to ask about hobbies. Now, now let's take Sam and let's just say he likes to draw. How do people with disabilities uh, search for a hobby, or how do people with dyslexia search for a hobby, and or or just or are there any particular hobbies that that we're into actually, or
Okay,
anything
I
that you've
this
noticed?
yes. Well, here's one of the here's one of the crazy things for ADD, ADHD, and dyslexia. We don't need to look. We know because this is the most important point. Let me go through next 2 points, and then I can answer this question when you understand the background. The first thing you need to understand about dyslexics in ADD and ADHD is we don't do well in school until grad school when it's hyper focused on what we're into. Let me give you an example. I want you to know that I never saw a kid before Casey like this. I'll never see a kid like Casey ever again. I doubt any of the hundreds of teachers I ever taught will ever run into somebody like Casey. She was a one-off edge case. To answer the biggest part of your question, I met Casey at the end of 10th grade. She turned 11 over the summertime. She was fanatically interested in Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this little book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. This is all 900 pages of it. Casey was reading at the second grade level. This is at the 10th to first year college level. It's won the Pulitzer. Nobody told her to do this. Nobody suggested it. She wanted to do reading first. I gave her a simple process. She went up to her room and shut her door for 3 hours a night for 6 months, most of the days on Sunday. I'm sorry, during the summertime. She went at the end of that time, you could flip to this random page, point to this random word, and she would tell you the exact dictionary definition. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
That's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's Casey. Now, that's not the point. Here's the point. The point is her mom wanted to know what would happen if we moved from a book she loved to something she hated. She said her motivation dropped about 50%. Most dyslexics will drop 75 to 90%. Okay. We only want to deal in our speciality, that small area of our extreme interest and ability. Why? Because if you ask a dyslexic, here's the last point, and then I can answer your question. When you ask a dyslexic in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. So what we have to do is force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Let me give you an example of what that means. I want you to think about could you go if you were given this assignment and you're going to get paid 100 grand by Bill Gates? Could you do this in the next 2 weeks? Go to a library and answer this question. What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s? They want it at the ninth grade level. Could you just go to the library, look up the books, and write the paper?
For me, maybe I could do it. Yeah, but I mean, I just wouldn't know where to look. But once I,
Ah, there's the. Are you finding that when you go into the library, nobody can help you? You're like, there's all these choices. I just don't know what to do. Sound familiar?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Because you're starting off at the big picture and then eventually getting to the details, and you find learning that way to be not so effective.
Mm,
How about if we flip it?
yeah.
If we were to go from a very specific point and then slowly go out, if we were to ask what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech. So you would have to go to his biography, look up, and find out why the heck did he want to do this? Is that something you could do?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so if I know where to go and get a biography on him, then it's much more easier to break it down and see his struggles and what he had to do to overcome racism and and eventually give be the inspiration that we needed
Oh no,
for.
that's way too big. We want to go and find out what personally compelled him to want to do this. That's
Yes.
all we're looking for.
Okay.
If I gave you his biography, could you just go and find that answer?
Could I? well, not immediately, but I could eventually get to the answer.
Yeah,
If
you
that's
would read through the big 1,000-page book and find the answer within some amount of time.
yes.
Okay. Then that answer would lead to another question, which would lead to an answer, which would lead to a question. That forces the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes. Yes, it does.
Okay. So here's the model. We start in the kid's speciality. We
Yeah.
then teach them from the specific to the general using word analysis followed by articulation, which I described. So if you take any dyslexic, you don't need to ask what their hobby is they want to turn into a business. They'll freaking tell you. And they will be so passionately interested in it that all you have to do is to show them how to don't do this big picture stuff and then get to the details. Start off with something very specific and then go cute question answer question answer question and just develop it slowly that way. Do word analysis followed by articulation, and it'll flush it right on out. And then that's what they, because we are so good and so into what we do, that's how we turn a hobby into a business.
Okay, that I think that was my question that I was trying to ask, and
Yeah, it
just
was
came.
kind of a complicated answer because I wanted you to understand what the real process was.
Okay. All right. Well, you certainly did. So, and I guess that would have also led to my third question. I guess that knocks it down. Um, do you, yeah. So we've been talking a little bit about education and everything of the sort. So how can people, so so is there a way that dyslexic people can use their hobbies to get educated? Now, I know earlier in the segment we broke down how we would teach how they would be taught or how people with dyslexia learn, but is there a way uh, that dyslexic people or even anyone with a disability can use their hobbies to get educated? Have you dealt with that before?
I've dealt with that dozens of times in the last 20 years. Do you know anybody who's trying to do that?
Well, I guess not off the top of my head, not personally, no.
Okay. So let me give you an example of one of my clients who was really interested in doing this. His speciality, let's just call him Tom to protect his identity. His
Mm-hmm.
speciality was he just liked fixing things. All right. So what I did with Tom is I said, okay, Tom, what do you want to do? He said, I want to become a mechanic. I said, okay. That our local community college, they have one of the best auto mechanics programs in the country. Okay. I mean, I think it's General Motors that works with them. All right. What we're going to do is you're 14. We discussed it with his parents. I said, you're dropping out of school. And he said, what? I said, you're dropping out of school. He's like, okay, I'm sending you to a community college. And he started off taking one class a semester. Then it went up to two classes a semester. And I wasn't pushing him. And by the time he turned 18, he was done with all his non core classes. All right. He's done. So now when he has to go in and to start working on the cars for the next 2 years, all he's doing is his auto mechanics, not his English, not his system, not all the other stuff, because he took care of that during high school. And he said, because we need to spend much more time learning that stuff. So he goes through, he becomes AFC certified. All right. And he knows his stuff. So he goes in and he opens up his own place, and people come to him because he's just so darn good at what he does. His mother had to step in to make sure he got paid appropriately because he wasn't very good at that side of it. All right, until he eventually found a partner and they just created their very own successful garage. It's a very common way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, wow. I mean, this one is all over the place uh too. So yeah, just
I'm dyslexic. This is how I roll.
I know. Uh
Scatterbrained.
and yet and yet and yet it's weird. I have this streamlined process of just everything in of how I do things, and then yet I didn't even know we'd be talking about law school today. I was not planning on doing that. Um, so so there is one idea that you did have on your podcast on your Podmatch page that I did want to discuss before I got into this amazing story of mine. No more I'm dumb, nurturing self-belief in dyslexic kids. I mean, there is a lot of self-doubt today,
Hmm.
and I can like and I think when you're just not on the same level as a neurotypical kid growing up, I mean, it is hard. You are going to be ostracized. You're going to have a little bit more of a disadvantage with the girls than most kids. And they're going to, not see past the first thing they're going to see when you speak is your disability. At times, you may be able to mask that for a little bit, but eventually it does come out.
Oh, but there's a way around that. What I tell my male clients is the girls in high school, they typically want, the captain of the football team, that sort of thing. But what you're going to find is when you go to a real college,
Yeah.
is the brain power becomes a lot more attractive. So I'll give you an example of where we go at the end of everything I work on. When I presented in New York City, the professors came to me and said, two of your students scored in the 70th percentile of entering grad students from the eighth grade level. And we don't care. We want the craft of research. And I was like, the craft of what? The Craft of Research is a book published by the University of Chicago in 1995 to teach PhD students to write their doctoral dissertations. It's since sold over 1 million copies, and it's all about coming up with a problem statement that actually needs to get solved, that you can actually do, and then you do a solution that where the reader learns something substantive. So right now, the most advanced person we're teaching this to, remember, this was designed for dyslexics. His name is Grayson. Grayson is not dyslexic in the least. He's in the 99th percentile in math. He's in the 99th percentile in science. He wants to get his PhD, work for NASA to terraform Mars. So we have to get him published in a peer reviewed journal. So we're in the process of working on that. I met another podcaster who's on the board of directors of a top 10 technical university. And once we're ready, we have to get him past the desk review of a peer reviewed journal, which means you didn't get rejected if you did something not exactly right, and is quality enough to send it to a human reviewer, then it will be rejected. So we can introduce him to a professor where you can say, I got rejected because of this. I want to work with you to get this punt finished up. How old do you think Grayson is?
I think he would be maybe in his 20s.
Grayson's 10.
No way.
Nope. Right. And his parents are teaching him to, I'm teaching his parents to teach him. He's currently reading material at the 11th grade level, the contents of second year college. He'll probably be done with this around 14 or 15. Now, are the girls going to be at all interested in him in school? He's dropping out of school because he's finding it too bored. But I can tell you, once you go to a mega, big research university with tens of thousands of students, if you've been rejected by a reviewer, but you passed the desk review, I can tell you, you're probably going to find a few that are interested in your brain. All right. So what I do just doesn't work for dyslexics. It works for bright students anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we and the brains do eventually matter because I'll give you a little hint. I was in ballroom dancing. I was just in a lot of things where I knew a lot of girls. What typically happens is, they get near the end of college and, their playtime is college. But once they go on to grad school or go out into the real world, I can tell you they would like somebody, they can hold a conversation with. Women statistically do better at higher education than men do. And if you're somebody who was, captain of your football team and, you end up graduating and then get a job washing cars because you took rocks for jocks. That's not everybody, but I can tell you, I remember when I was in college, I knew a lot of the football players. I knew a lot of them are going to law school, PhDs, master's programs, and the team GPA was 2.1. You can imagine what the other side of that looked like. Okay.
Yeah.
So they want to see brain, and that's when you start getting their attention.
Okay.
That's
All right.
just what I've generally found with guys who are more cerebral.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question. Is my screen all right? Because I'm like worried the Wi-Fi might have just tripped
No,
out.
you're fine.
Okay.
Nope,
2.1,
you're fine.
2.18, man. That's low. And here I was about to argue for a 3.0 GPA for all athletes looking for an
No,
athletic
no,
scholarship.
that was again. Let me repeat what happened. Just let me again explain what that was. I knew a lot of guys who were going on to med school, PhDs, law school, master's degrees. These guys had ultra high GPAs. The smartest ones tended to be the offensive linemen, but the team GPA was 2.1. So you can imagine what the other half of that looked
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah, that's so just as what I tried to tell my more cerebral, let's just call it what it is. I'm a dyslectic nerd. I'm happy to admit it. I'm a dyslectic nerd. Okay. Your brain power as you get older, it tends to get more interesting. So one of my kids said, "Well, how do I meet girls?" I said, "Well, tutor them. Okay, teach a bunch of them. Eventually, you'll probably meet somebody," which took a couple of years, but it did for him. And the reason why she ended up dating and they ended up getting engaged, the last I knew, is she said, "You're the only guy I can actually hold a conversation with about medieval art history," which was her
Wow.
passion. And how did he get introduced to her? The professor recommended him,
That's incredible.
which kind of got her attention. Okay. No, but the key thing you have to understand if you're going to tutor, go in there. It's a profession. If things happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. Go through enough people and something will happen at some point.
It's like a deck of cards. Eventually you're gonna get an ace. 4 out of 52 times you're gonna get an ace.
Yes, but you take it slow, you become friends, you enjoy things, and things will naturally take their course.
Of
Be
course.
polite, don't push, be patient. Okay? It's not a dating club, but I've just happened, if you meet enough people, when I when I try to tell my clients who are going through this is I would say, well, when I was in school, I went to a university with 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Universities and near the 90 something, but it's still top 100 at the time. And you're around 40,000 smart people. You don't think you can't find somebody in that? And what I try,
Exactly.
and what I found is find out if you're dyslexic, you're excellent in your speciality, focus on that. Wait to probably grad school. You will find somebody. All right. And I found just playing the smartest person in the room in that area was a good, and then show people what to do.
That's
Okay. Sooner or later, start off by going and meeting each other for lunch. And if that works out, ask them to a movie. Okay.
all right.
And then just go slow and be respectful.
That's
All right. And sooner or later,
it'll all work out.
you know, well,
So,
I'll give you an example. The valedictorian of my high school class was really popular. But when I met him at Rensselaer Polytech Institute, I was a cross registration student. He could get A's in any test in high school, but he couldn't adapt what he needed to do and apply it, which was a death sentence at Rensselaer Polytech Institute because they're all about applications. And he was like a C plus student. All right. Yeah. Kind of made him, yeah. And then what I would do is I would get up. What do you think happened when I was in law school? And I debated the professor like that. Do you think
um,
maybe I had some girls that came up where I argued with the professor for 15 minutes and they asked,
actually,
how did you do
yes.
it? And I said, and I was like, hey, that's easy. And then I'd go, okay, here's how you do it. And they're just like, who are you? All right. You don't think that didn't lead to some opportunities? That's, but again, you have to take it very slow, but it's a good way to meet people.
Just one thing after the other. Man, that's, oh man. I mean, it is. We've been on this call for 48 minutes, and I still want to keep going too.
Sure.
I'm not even sure I want to tell the story now, but I mean, unless you're cool with it.
Go ahead.
Um,
Absolutely.
okay, so I never told anyone this on the podcast, or at least I don't think I did. Um, if you notice my profile picture on Zoom, it says I, it's me in my old Towson hockey gear, and
Mhm.
and um, And it was during this time where I was asking the coach a bunch of questions. You see, I was a freshman in college. We were playing hockey. I was from the American Special Hockey Association. I never played a year of juniors, never had a traditional hockey route. I played a year of high school, and yet I just sunk in and tried to absorb as much hockey knowledge as I could. I asked many questions, and what had happened was that since he was repeating the drills almost every time, we wound up winning the championship because he said to me, Adam, you made everyone else really understand when you were struggling. You got to, uh, you actually helped your teammates in a way that was, you know, in a way that no other, um, that that just couldn't be explained because you asked the questions. They had that extra opportunity to listen and learn that other teams never had to get. And we won the crab pot tournament. We won the ECHA championship in 2013, and I have a ring to my name because of it. ACHA
Wow.
hockey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. There are advantages to being neurodiverse. People think it's all negative. Let me give you an example. When it came time to get my message out, I was recommended to do podcasts. And I was spending like 100 to 140 bucks a month, I mean, per podcast to have a medical student or pre-med student in Africa just take care of everything for me. I mean, it was white glove service. She communicated between both parties, and I just had to show up. Okay. I mean, we're talking Ferrari level, uh, just support and everything here. But then I found about Podmatch. And I went on like everybody else. I ran through it. I was like, great, I'm getting like all these leads. And then after a couple of months, I stopped getting leads because I literally went through everything that made sense on Podmatch. Yet I was the number one guest this month. I was number one guest last month. I've been on the leaderboard for the past 7 months, in the top six at least every time. You're my 250 some odd podcast since May. What
That's
has
incredible.
allowed me to do this? Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing, because I do the craft of research, I can go and talk about a wide variety of subjects and come in and give really good value for each one. If I wasn't dyslexic, there's no way in heck I can do that. And what has that done for me? Well, I went to the artificial intelligence lately. It was ChatGPT 5.5 Thinking Extended. I asked, where am I as an influencer on dyslexia? And it placed me in the world at about 127. Now, it's not an exact thing, but last year at this time, I was in the thousands. I mean, nobody knew me. Now people Google me and they're like, how many podcasts were you on? And I would tell them they would just be shocked. And it matters because podcasters are the ones who are the filters on what matters and what doesn't matter. You guys determine who should be coming on as a guest and who has something valuable to say. And I'm just starting this process, and it's been one heck of a year. But if I wasn't dyslexic, there's no way I could do this. Not even close.
Uh, when people Google my name, they Google some guy who a different Adam Rothstein who was a part of BuzzFeed, a different one who lived in New Jersey and did some production work in Hollywood, and and eventually you get down to me and you see my article, you see that, and you'll see my audiobooks and everything. And then there's another writer by the name of Adam Rothstein, too, yet I have more books than he does. So
Yeah.
it's,
And if you were to go on Podmatch as a guest, okay,
yeah,
and rack up like 100 podcasts, you see your name up there a lot more because it just Google loves podcasts because they know it's real, it's human run, and you can't AI it away.
can't. And speaking of AI, I've had this love-hate relationship with it. I like what it can produce. I like that we can get medical research out of it. I like that we can just have spreadsheets and websites just be produced, but it is very costly to the environment. And I've been back and forth with other people on this, and and maybe I took the wrong position initially, but there's so much water that has to be used for this, and I don't understand why we can't use something else to cool them, or different microchips or something that
Uh,
we could
okay.
do
So
to,
let me explain what's going on there.
yeah,
All right. We are not using AI chips now. We are using graphical processors that were designed for video games.
yeah,
The AI chips are the latest generation coming out from NVIDIA is now going to be cooled by, I believe, hot water. Okay, that's one improvement. But the real AI chips aren't the size of your fingernail; they're the size of a dinner plate,
jeez.
and they're going to be coming out. They're hoping in 2029. And then the cost to cool them will be next to nothing because all the cooling stuff will be on that massive thing. And we're going from that to this. So the ability will be in orders of magnitude faster than what we have now. The cost of electricity will be way less. Okay. I mean, it'll be completely, the whole thing will change. We're just not there yet.
Okay, then what happens to those big data centers at if we can get it down and get these,
Well, these data centers only last for about 3 or 4 years, and then we replace them with the new stuff.
yeah. And I then I guess you'd lease them for office space and you wouldn't hear those. That those
Well,
wind turbines?
they're just going to replace them with the new stuff after so many years. And but you're talking about somebody who, when OpenAI came out with their $200 a month pro plan in December of 24, I bought it that day. So you ever hear those people that are 10x as successful, doing 10x more with AI? I'm one of those people. My numbers are really around 13x.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
said wow.
Yeah. This is even right now, I'm having it edit 2 books as we speak. I
That's
gave it long form. I gave it both long form tasks. I knew would take about an hour and a half each.
okay. So just to clarify, because I just want to make sure I get the data center thing, those turbines, all the noise, we're not going to need the data centers anymore
Oh
because
no, no. What
of,
I'm saying is we're moving those chips because these are not AI chips. They're designed for video games. That's just the best
right.
chip we currently have.
Okay.
We're moving away from something the size of our fingernail to a size of a dinner plate.
Okay.
Okay. That cooling is going to be automatically on the chip itself.
Okay.
So it's going to require a fraction of the amount of electricity and cooling to keep it running. It's still going to be there. You're still probably going to have a noise. It's just going to be just in orders of magnitude more efficient and much less costly to run.
Yeah. I've been trying to cut back on my AI usage because right now it uses so much water, and I think it was in 2024 when they like it just outpaced what people in the United States were drinking. Like the AI was using more water than Americans were drinking water at that point, or
Oh,
something.
it's so much worse. If you want to know what is actually going on, and I just picked this up from going through. I try to stay current in books that matter. I forget her name. She's an Asian woman that worked for MIT who did a report on OpenAI's around 2020 or something like that. Just put that into the AI to find out who she is. And she had a book that came out a couple of months ago. And if you actually want to understand about the environmental impact, she actually tells you because she actually researches it. And the problems aren't so much in the United States, but what we do in other countries. She tells you exactly what's going on. It's far worse than you think.
Oh man, that's that's intense, and I do want this in a clean environment, and I do hope those chips can just really revolutionize it, and our electric bills are just down entirely at that
Oh,
point.
it will, um, you but you need to understand again uh, how productive you are using this thing. I am literally using it to basically allow dyslexics to be functional. Okay. And I know it's going to be dirty until starting in 2029. And we'll probably have everything replaced by 2035. So another 9 years to get past all this mess. Um, but I also know that if I don't train my kids to use this appropriately, they're unemployable. All these jobs that you used to hire when we got out of school, I just had AI do it. I have 2 assistants. One has a master's degree in teaching English. One's a PhD candidate. All right. And I draft things out with AI, get it up to a good amount, then I send it to them to clean up and to send out. All right. We're a small group of, I maybe work with 6 people, and we're doing something that used to take an organization that was 30 or 40 people. And what I'm doing is when I'm teaching dyslexics, I'm using it to keep the price down to 147 a month instead of my competition that's 500, 1,000 a month. And that's with in-person instruction. One of the people that I have doing my work on a learning platform called School, SKOOL.com, her name is Angela. She's a certified elementary school teacher from the state of Texas with 11 years of experience. And she started homeschooling, and she taught her dyslexic son, August, how to go through my process. and she's there each week to speak to parents. Now, if it wasn't for all this AI stuff, I would have to build this thing out probably 700-800 bucks a month and only work with the upper middle class. Now I can work with normal families. That's the other side of this. All right, because I use it a lot.
Yeah. And I don't use it as much or not anymore. And it was and I'll tell you this, Russell, it was fun making, some AI videos and just making jokes and just poking fun with Cheat GBT and Grok and all that, that it was fun, like too, but I realize that it is good to have this, but it needs to be cleaned up for the environment.
Yes. And the way that I look at it is try to do the best you can. But I also visited India back in '99, and I can tell you one of those little rickshaws made more pollution than a Mack truck starting up from a stoplight.
Dang.
Okay. If you really want to clean up the environment, there was some business guys that actually, looked at this, and what they found was simple. If you went to the 1,500 worst coal power plants in the world and made them reasonably efficient to US standards, that would do more than anything else you could to clean up the environment. Electric cars or no electric cars, doesn't matter. That's the big one.
Okay, that
And guess where a lot of those plants are?
in
China.
uh, yeah, of course.
Okay, but that's the single biggest thing you can actually do.
It's crazy. Just change the factories and upgrade them to our
No, no,
standards.
just make them like a normal coal-firing plant that would be reasonably functional in the United States. Not really good, but reasonably functional. And I'm talking about standards that are 5 years old and what are now. That's how bad it is.
I cannot imagine any living in a country like that or near a factory like that.
Well, that's the problem, and that is normal. I mean, as I said, just you go to New Delhi, it's like smoking 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day because of all the pollution. Okay, this is what you have to do to this is the problem. All right, this is what you have to do to this is how bad the pollution is. So when people are talking about, the stuff with data centers and all that, I said, well, if we can figure out how to just get things up to Western standards, things will be so much better. All right. It's a matter of degree. And I use this, quite frankly, to teach my dyslexic kids, all right, so they can actually function in the world. And I think the good that I do with AI outweighs the pollution that comes from it. And, I don't make, I never did the Sora three-legged cat videos. That was a real waste.
Understood.
And they got rid of Sora because in its history brought in $2.1 million in revenue, and it cost $1.5 million a day. They
That's
were just burning billions of dollars making three-legged cat videos.
that's like pennies in the bucket for like spending hundreds of dollars on a
No,
train
no,
set.
no. 1.5 million a day for like a couple of years.
A couple of years. So
Okay,
out of
so one point
so
so 100
750,000
days is
in
150
two
million.
wait, 750 million or
No, no, 1.5 million dollars a day I think was the figure I heard for like a year and a half, 2 years, and it was just wasted money. It was just a complete waste.
it cost them 1.5 million dollars to
Uh,
maintain.
a day, and it brought in 2.1 million in like a year and a half.
Okay, and
They
then
were
that
just
would be about
blowing money.
maybe $1 million, $1,050,000. Like
No,
that, right?
1.5 million, 1,500,000 a day to run it.
Wait, wait, you said 2.1 million.
Okay, 1.5 million a day. That's what it cost.
Okay,
The
yes.
revenue it brought in over like 18 months, 2 years, or whatever it was 2.1 million total.
Okay, then that's one. Wouldn't that be? Wait a minute. I,
It brought in the cost was the revenue that it brought in was less than 1% of its cost. It
okay,
was
that
one of the stupidest business decisions in the history of mankind.
pizza shops that go under do better than that.
Yes,
Yeah,
they finally stopped the madness.
yeah. And now I look on YouTube, like the sort of videos, and it's like bad movie trailers and bad jokes and and pics and like all the Pixar jokes and everything of the sort and and whatever the latest trends were at the time. And now all down the toilet.
Yeah.
I I think if we just focus on using AI um, intentionally and for good use, and when we get those big chips, like you said, the size of dinner plates, I think that this can work out. So I'm going to be a bit hesitant on it going forward, but I hope that the research is there, and I hope that we can get a lot of medical research done with it and everything of the sort, and we actually can use this, and the electric bill eventually doesn't get too high. Never thought I'd be talking about AI today.
Yeah. Well, we're doing just fine. Well, I got to get ready for my next podcast.
Okay,
Um,
let's sign off
so
and yeah.
yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on. This was interesting.
Okay, anything you'd like to promote?
Just if you'd like to go and visit us on SKOLL.com, that's again SKOOL.com, and just type in dyslexia classes, you can find us and we can walk you through from basic sentences to writing a peer review journal article. We do everything.
Okay. And and if you want to support me, check out my audiobooks. I have Growing Baseball, an audiobook on MLB stadiums, Determination, Chess, and Growing Hockey. All five of those audiobooks will be available in the show notes. They are available wherever you get your audiobooks. Okay, Russell, anything else or goodbye? Oh, and
Uh, I'm I'm all I'm all set.
oh,
Just
send
want
me
to
the
say,
links. Send me the link to that, and
okay,
I will be sure to add it in the show notes.
okay, that'll be absolutely fantastic, and I'll get you a good review on Podmatch in the next couple of hours. If you could do the same for me, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, have a good day and take care. And where's the oh, and bye. Wait, where are the? Okay, yeah. Take care and bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Peace.